That coffee in your cupboard right now is not what it claims to be. And I don't just mean the taste has changed, though it has. I mean the beans, the labeling, the jar size, the sourcing, all of it. A UK study tested 60 coffee brands and found that up to 65% of products labeled 100% Arabica simply weren't. One sample was 1/3 cheaper, harsher bean, and nobody told you. Today we're exposing 9 brands sitting on UK supermarket shelves right now that you need to stop buying, and 3 that are actually still worth your money. Number 9. Nescafé Original Instant Coffee, the gold jar, the one that's been in British kitchens since 1938. Your parents had it, your grandparents had it. There's a reason this brand feels like part of the furniture, because for decades it was genuinely decent, reliably available, and reasonably priced. That era is over. In 2025, Which magazine documented that Nescafé quietly shrank the jar from 200 grams to 190 grams. Same jar, same shape, same label. 10 grams less coffee and the price went up. That's not one insult, that's 2. And Nestlé was betting you wouldn't notice either of them. That's not a business decision, that's an insult. This is what the industry calls shrinkflation, and it's running rampant across UK coffee right now. The jar stays the same size deliberately. Change the jar and customers notice. Reduce the fill weight and most people never check. Nestlé is betting on the power of habit. You've been buying the gold jar for 30 years. You're not going to start weighing it before you put it in the trolley, and they know that. But the price and weight are almost secondary to what's happened to the coffee itself. Nescafé Original is spray-dried, the cheapest and fastest processing method available. Spray drying blasts liquid coffee through superheated air at high pressure. The whole process takes seconds. It's dramatically cheaper than the alternative, freeze drying, which takes 16 to 24 hours and actually preserves the aromatic compounds that give coffee its character. Spray drying destroys those compounds. What you're left with is the structural skeleton of coffee without the soul. Open a jar of spray-dried instant and it smells musty, flat, chemical. Open a jar of properly freeze-dried instant and it smells like actual coffee. The difference is immediate and obvious. The beans are an Arabica Robusta blend. The Robusta component, cheaper, harsher, more bitter, is not prominently disclosed on the label. You won't find it in large print on the front. Check the small text. And the volume of Robusta in the blend has, by all accounts, been increasing as Nestlé looks for ways to maintain margins. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Food Composition found that instant coffees with higher Robusta content also showed cadmium levels up to 3 times higher than pure Arabica products. Cadmium is a heavy metal that accumulates in the kidneys over time. You're not just getting worse coffee, you may be getting a worse health outcome too, and nothing on the jar tells you that. Customers who have been drinking Nescafé Original for decades are reporting, unprompted, in supermarket reviews, on food forums, in comment sections, that it doesn't taste right anymore. They're not imagining it. The product has tangibly changed. The brand has simply hoped you wouldn't notice or wouldn't be able to put your finger on exactly why. The verdict? A brand living entirely on borrowed loyalty. The coffee inside has not earned the price being charged for it. Number 8. Nescafé Azera Americano. If Nescafé Original is a betrayal of trust, Azera is a masterclass in using language to mislead without technically lying. The packaging is black and gold, premium, sophisticated, contemporary. The marketing calls it barista style. The price point is noticeably higher than Original. There are design cues that evoke proper espresso culture, dark, moody, the suggestion of craft and quality. Here's the reality behind that packaging. According to food composition analysis, Nescafé Azera Americano contains approximately 5% roast and ground coffee. 5%. The remaining 95% is standard instant coffee, the same spray-dried product at the heart of the Original range. They have taken their cheapest product, added a marginal sprinkle of ground coffee, dressed it up in premium packaging, charged significantly more for it, and called it barista style. Barista style is not a regulated term, it has no legal definition. Any manufacturer can print it on any product regardless of what's inside. Nobody verifies it, no standard governs it. It exists purely to imply quality that the product cannot actually deliver. The same is true of gold roast, smooth blend, finest, and most of the other language you'll find on coffee packaging. These phrases are unregulated marketing, nothing more. Check the ingredients label on Azera carefully. If you see maltodextrin listed, that's filler. If you see vegetable oils, more filler. These are additives used to bulk out a product with limited actual coffee content, giving it body and mouthfeel that minimal bean content can't provide on its own. Genuinely good instant coffee has one ingredient: freeze-dried instant coffee. That's it. Nothing else needed. The presence of additives is a reliable signal that the coffee itself isn't doing the job. What Azera demonstrates is the full Nescafé strategy in miniature. Create a range of products: original, gold, Azera, gold blend, barista, all at ascending price points, all implying a quality progression. In reality, they're variations on the same industrial product in different packaging. Customers who have done blind taste tests comparing the range side by side consistently struggle to identify meaningful differences. You are not moving up a quality ladder when you buy Azera instead of original. You are paying more for better packaging. Number 7. Kenco Millicano Americano. Kenco Millicano is sold on a genuinely clever promise: whole bean instant coffee. The idea is that you get the convenience of instant with the flavor of properly ground beans. It sounds like the best of both worlds, and it's 85% standard instant coffee. Only 15% of Millicano is actual roast and ground coffee. That 15% is the entire foundation for the whole bean instant positioning. The premium packaging, the elevated price, the strong implication that this is something categorically different from ordinary instant. They have taken one part of a true claim and built an entire brand identity around it, while the product itself is overwhelmingly the thing they're telling you it isn't. Now, who actually owns Kenco? JDE Peet's. Jacobs Douwe Egberts Peet's, one of the largest coffee conglomerates on the planet. They process over 12 billion cups of coffee every single year across their various brands. When production operates at that scale, the entire incentive structure pushes toward cost reduction, standardization, and efficiency. Genuine artisan quality is not compatible with 12 billion cups a year. The premium boutique image is marketing fiction produced at industrial volume. Kenco started life in 1923 as the Kenya Coffee Company, a genuine premium coffee operation in Mayfair, selling quality single-origin beans. A century later, it's a mass-market industrial product owned by a Dutch-American multinational. The name survived. The coffee it was named for did not. This is the pattern across the UK coffee aisle. Beloved heritage brands bought by multinationals. The story kept, the quality replaced. JDE Peet's also owns Douwe Egberts and Tassimo, among others. Same corporate parent, same industrial facilities, same cost-cutting playbook, different jars with different heritage narratives. The choice you think you're making between brands is often not a choice at all. Some customers also report that Millicano leaves gritty sediment at the bottom of the cup, the 15% ground coffee that doesn't fully dissolve. They're paying a premium for an inferior drinking experience plus a physical reminder of how little actual coffee is in the product. Kenco also carries Rainforest Alliance certification on its packaging, which sounds reassuring, but Rainforest Alliance is a considerably weaker standard than Fairtrade International. It does not guarantee the same farmer payment protections. There is no farm-level transparency. You cannot trace your coffee to a specific farm or cooperative. The certification exists on a spectrum, and Rainforest Alliance sits at the less demanding end of it. Responsibly sourced language on the jar means very little when there's no independently verified supply chain behind it. Number 6. Carte Noire Instant Coffee. Here's where we move from the obvious targets to a brand that's managed to maintain a considerably more refined image and deserves to be looked at much more critically because of it. Carte Noire has one of the most effective brand stories in UK coffee retail. French heritage, sophisticated all-black packaging. The association with continental cafe culture, the implicit suggestion that you're bringing a little Parisian elegance to your British kitchen. The name itself, literally black card, conjures exclusivity by association. This is a brand that positions itself a step above the Nescafé mass market, a more discerning choice for more discerning drinkers. The coffee inside does not match the story. Carte Noire is another JDE Peet's product produced at the same industrial scale as Kenco and Douwe Egberts, through many of the same processes. The brand was originally French, established in 1978, and was for a period regarded as a high-quality product. Then it passed through Kraft Foods, then Mondelez International, then Lavazza. Each corporate transition brought fresh margin optimization exercises. The French aesthetic survived every one of them. The quality did not. What customers consistently report now is a coffee that tastes over-roasted and one-dimensional. Dark, bitter, flat, with none of the complexity that a genuinely premium roast at this price point should deliver. That aggressive dark roast is not an accident. Dark roasting, pushed to extremes, is one of the most reliable ways in the industry to mask inferior bean quality. Once coffee is roasted past a certain threshold, origin character disappears completely. Subtle flavor compounds burn off. Any defects in the underlying beans become invisible under a blanket of smoke and bitterness. You stop tasting the coffee and start tasting the roast. Coffee roasters have understood this for decades. Take commodity-grade beans, push the roast dark enough, suddenly the defects disappear, not because they've been resolved, but because they've been incinerated along with everything else that made the coffee interesting. Carte Noire has no third-party ethical accreditation on its standard range. No fair trade, no Rainforest Alliance, no independently verified sourcing standard of any kind. For a product charging premium prices on the strength of a sophisticated heritage image, that absence is worth noting. You are paying for the romance of a brand story that stopped being true decades ago. Number 5. Douwe Egberts Pure Gold Instant Coffee. Douwe Egberts is the coffee brand most British shoppers couldn't immediately place, and that's precisely the point. It doesn't have the British nostalgia pull of Nescafé, or the faux premium posturing of Azera. It just sits there, in every major UK supermarket, in its distinctive dark maroon tin, looking quietly trustworthy. Established 1753. 3 centuries of coffee. That's the message the packaging projects. Here's what the packaging doesn't project. Douwe Egberts is owned by JDE Peet's, the same multinational conglomerate behind Kenco, Carte Noire, and Tassimo. Same parent company, same industrial infrastructure, same cost-cutting imperatives operating at the same 12 billion cups a year scale. When you buy Douwe Egberts thinking you're choosing something different from Kenco, you are choosing something with a different label on the same shelf, produced within the same corporate cost structure, with the same pressure on margins driving the same compromises. Pure gold is spray-dried. Despite the gold in the name, despite the premium positioning and the 3-century heritage story, the processing method is identical to the cheapest instant coffees on the market. That 16 to 24-hour freeze-drying process, that actually preserves flavor. Douwe Egberts chose not to use it for pure gold. They chose seconds over hours, and your cup tastes like it. The sourcing picture is equally opaque. Pure gold carries Rainforest Alliance certification, that weaker standard again, the one that sounds meaningful but doesn't require the farm-level transparency or verified farmer payment protections that Fairtrade International does. There is no information on the tin about which countries the beans come from, which farms, which cooperatives. Responsibly sourced appears on the packaging. What it means in practice is left entirely to your imagination. Consumer reviews across Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Ocado tell a consistent story. Thin, watery, noticeably bitter aftertaste. A hollow flavor that lingers unpleasantly. For a product at this price point with this heritage story, that is a damning result. The 3-century history on that tin belongs to a company that hasn't existed for decades. What's inside was made by a Dutch-American conglomerate optimizing for margin. The heritage is on the label. That's the only place it still lives. Number 4. Tesco own brand instant coffee. Now we move to a different kind of problem entirely. Not a heritage brand coasting on reputation, but a supermarket own brand that should know better and doesn't. Tesco is the UK's largest supermarket. More coffee is sold through Tesco than through almost any other single retailer. Their own brand coffee occupies prime shelf space, carries the implicit endorsement of a trusted household name, and is bought by millions of shoppers who reasonably assume that Tesco's own product meets a basic standard of quality. It doesn't. Tesco's standard own brand instant coffee, the product sitting right next to the branded options at a price designed to look like good value, is spray-dried from a Robusta heavy blend. Robusta beans are the cheaper, harsher variety of coffee bean. They contain nearly double the caffeine of Arabica, and almost none of the smoothness or complexity. They're used in mass-market coffee because they're significantly cheaper to source, faster to grow, and more resilient as a crop. They taste like it. The specific problem with Tesco's own brand is what it communicates at shelf. It looks like a value choice, but a value choice only makes sense when the product delivers acceptable quality at a lower price. When which? Magazines surveyed own-brand instant coffees in recent years. Tesco's standard offering scored at the bottom of the category, not just compared to premium brands, but compared to other supermarket own brands at similar price points. Aldi and Lidl's own-brand coffees consistently outperform it. Waitrose and M&S's own brands obliterate it. Even some of the other budget supermarket ranges beat it. There is no ethical sourcing certification of any kind on Tesco's standard instant. No fair trade, no Rainforest Alliance, nothing. For a company of Tesco's size and resources, that's a choice, not a constraint. Here's the broader point this entry makes. Own brand coffee is not automatically bad. As we'll see in the recommendations, some of the best performing coffees in the UK right now are supermarket own brands, but Tesco's standard instant is proof that the own brand category has its own flaw, and that flaw is genuinely unpleasant. The low price reflects the low quality directly. You are not getting value, you are getting the minimum a large supermarket can put in a jar and still call it coffee. Number 3. Asda Smart Price Instant Coffee. If Tesco's own brand is the flaw of what a major supermarket should offer, Asda Smart Price is what happens when you dig through the flaw. Asda Smart Price instant coffee costs around 65 pence for 100 grams. That price point, presented as thrift, is doing an enormous amount of work to disguise what it actually represents. This is not affordable coffee. This is a substance that resembles coffee in colour and in the fact that it comes in a jar. The comparison to actual coffee more or less ends there. Smart Price is spray-dried from a Robusta dominant blend. Open the jar and the smell tells you immediately, not coffee, but something closer to a chemical approximation of coffee. The kind of flat, harsh aroma that arrives when most of what made the original bean interesting has been destroyed in processing, and what remains has been padded with whatever is cheapest. Customers reviewing this product across Asda's own website use the same words repeatedly. Bitter, undrinkable, chemical, nothing like coffee. But here's why this entry matters beyond the obvious point that cheap coffee tastes bad. Asda Smart Price is marketed by its placement, its branding, its price communication as a household staple that ordinary families can rely on. The Smart Price range is built on the message that everyone deserves access to everyday essentials at accessible prices. That is a good message. The problem is that coffee at this quality level is not an essential. It's a disappointment that families on tighter budgets are being nudged toward because the price looks right. Here is the fact that makes this genuinely worth being angry about. Aldi's own brand Alcafe Gold instant coffee costs around £2.50 for 200 grams, approximately the same price per gram as Asda Smart Price. It is freeze-dried. It scored just 5 points below the winning coffees in Which? Magazine's 2026 taste test. It beat brands costing 3 times as much. So the argument that cheap coffee has to be bad coffee is demonstrably false. Asda has chosen to make their cheapest coffee bad. That's a procurement and quality decision, not an inevitability of the price point. Families buying Smart Price because it's what the budget stretches to are not getting a fair deal. They're getting the absolute minimum Asda can get away with, in a category where the minimum isn't acceptable. Number 2. Lavazza Qualità Rossa. Lavazza is a brand with genuine heritage, founded in Turin in 1895. It helped define Italian espresso culture for over a century. When it arrived in British supermarkets, it carried real credibility. The red bag was what home espresso drinkers reached for when they wanted something that felt authentic. That credibility is now doing work that the current product can no longer justify. The Guardian gave Qualità Rossa 2 stars in a formal taste test, describing it as carrying dark, vegetable, leathery notes. 2 stars. From a brand charging £18 to £22 per kilogram on the strength of a century of Italian coffee expertise. Those tasting notes are a direct fingerprint of over-roasting. Vegetable and leathery characteristics appear in coffee when beans of insufficient quality have been subjected to aggressive, high-heat roasting. The dark roast strips out origin character completely. Any subtlety, any of the nuanced flavor development that good beans and careful roasting produce is destroyed. What you're left with is the taste of the roast itself. Smoke, bitterness, a flatness disguised as intensity. This is a technique with a long history in commodity coffee production. Take beans that wouldn't pass quality standards in the specialty market, roast them dark enough that the defects burn off along with everything else. Market the result as bold and powerful. It works commercially because most consumers associate darkness with strength and strength with quality. Neither association is accurate. Lavazza does not disclose what proportion of Qualita Rossa is Robusta. The packaging describes sourcing as mainly from Brazil and Africa, a description that covers roughly a third of all coffee-growing regions on Earth. There is no third-party ethical accreditation, no fair trade, no Rainforest Alliance, nothing independently verified. For a product at this price point, that absence of transparency is itself informative. There is also no roast date on the bag. You will find a best before date 18 months from now. You will find nothing that tells you when the coffee was actually roasted and ground. Pre-ground coffee in a bag without a roast date, sold through a supermarket distribution chain, you could be buying coffee that was processed 6 months ago. The Italian heritage on the packaging is real. The coffee inside the current supermarket product has moved a long distance from what that heritage once promised. Number 1. Taylors of Harrogate Hot Lava Java. Taylors of Harrogate is a genuinely respected British brand, a family business with real craft in parts of their range, and a loyal following built over decades. That makes this entry the most important one on the list because it's the one that will surprise the most people. Hot Lava Java, their Strength 6 whole bean offering, is the product that best illustrates the specific deception hiding inside strength ratings and why that deception is so effective. The packaging promises serious, powerful coffee. Smoke and black pepper notes, bold and intense. A coffee for people who know what they want. The Strength 6 rating does real marketing work. It positions this as the choice of experienced, discerning coffee drinkers who want something with genuine impact. Here is what strength ratings actually measure. Roast darkness, and to some extent, caffeine content. That is all. They do not measure flavor complexity. They do not measure bean quality. They do not measure sourcing standards, roasting precision, or origin character. A Strength 6 coffee made from commodity-grade beans roasted to destruction is still rated Strength 6. It's just intensely bad. And extra dark roasting does what we've now seen across several entries on this list. It hides inferior bean quality. Take low-grade commodity beans, roast them until they're close to carbonized. The defects disappear, not because they've been resolved, but because they've been burnt away along with every other flavor characteristic the beans might have had. What remains are the smoke and black pepper notes that the Hot Lava Java packaging presents as sophisticated flavor development. They're not. They're the taste of over-roasted coffee. Any bean, good, bad, or indifferent, produces smoke and bitterness when subjected to that level of heat. Origin character, varietal complexity, processing nuance, all of it gone. You just taste the damage. There is no ethical certification visible on Hot Lava Java, no fair trade, no Rainforest Alliance, no indication that the sourcing meets any independently verified standard. For a brand with Taylor's heritage and positioning, that's a significant omission. Taylor's does produce genuinely decent coffee in other parts of their range. Their Lazy Sunday and After Dark blends have earned their reputations and their customers. But Hot Lava Java is a different calculation. Take the commodity end of the supply chain, apply maximum roast darkness to obscure it, and let the strength rating convince you that what you're tasting is supposed to taste like that. It isn't. It just ran out of quality before it ran out of heat. Before we get to the 3 brands genuinely worth buying, one thing worth saying directly. Every claim in this video is drawn from documented, publicly available evidence, taste tests by which magazine, independent food composition analysis, consumer research, environmental reporting by The Times and The Guardian, and published academic studies. This is not opinion. These are facts about products currently sold in every major UK supermarket. If you think people deserve to know what's actually in their coffee, hit that like button and share this. When videos like this get traction, it puts genuine commercial pressure on these companies to improve their standards rather than just their packaging. They pay attention to what consumers notice. Every share counts. Now, the 3 that truly deserve your money. Number 1, M&S Gold Fairtrade Instant Coffee. In 2026, Which? Magazine ran a blind taste test with 68 participants, covering every major instant coffee available in UK supermarkets. M&S Gold Fairtrade came joint top. It beat Nescafé Gold Blend. It beat Kenco. It beat Douwe Egberts. Every heavily marketed heritage brand instant coffee on the market was outscored by a supermarket own brand product. In a blind test, no packaging, no brand names, no heritage stories. Stripped of everything except what's actually in the cup, the famous names lost. The testers described M&S Gold as smooth and balanced with chocolate and caramel notes, genuine flavor complexity that the industrial brands couldn't match once the packaging stopped doing the work. Now, the price. M&S Gold costs around £3.70 for 100 grams. Nescafé Gold Blend costs over £4 for the same quantity. Better quality, lower price, independently verified in a taste test. Why does it taste better? 2 reasons. It's freeze-dried. The 16 to 24-hour process that preserves the aromatic compounds spray drying destroys in seconds. Open the jar and you'll notice the difference immediately. Genuine coffee aroma instead of the flat, musty smell that characterizes cheap instant. And it carries full Fairtrade International certification, the gold standard of ethical sourcing, not the weaker Rainforest Alliance label, verified farmer payments, transparent supply chains, actual accountability. M&S doesn't have Nestlé's advertising budget or Nescafé's 90 years of shelf presence. They don't need it. They have coffee that tastes better and costs less. Available in every M&S food hall and on Ocado. Number 2, Waitrose own brand Gold freeze-dried instant. The other joint top scorer in that, which blind taste test, same result, beat every major brand. Own brand pricing. What makes Waitrose particularly notable is a detail that most shoppers don't know. Their commitment to fair trade isn't limited to one product in the range. It applies to every single Waitrose own brand coffee. That's a company-wide sourcing policy, not a marketing exercise on a single SKU. Every Waitrose own brand coffee carries the same ethical standard. You don't have to hunt for the fair trade logo. It's the baseline. The coffee delivers what it promises. Smooth, full-bodied, without the bitterness and chemical harshness that define the cheaper end of the market. Reviewers consistently describe it as coffee that actually tastes like coffee, which sounds like a low bar until you've worked your way through the alternatives on this list. 67% of UK home coffee consumption is instant. If you're in that majority, this is one of the best places to put your money. Number 3. Café Direct Maravilla Ground Coffee. This is the only coffee product in major UK supermarkets to receive a Best Buy recommendation from Ethical Consumer Ratings. And the reason it earns that distinction goes far beyond what any other brand on either side of this list can offer. Café Direct is 100% Fairtrade International certified and 85% organic. But that's just the start of what makes it different. The farmers who grow the coffee own shares in the business. 2 of the 8 board members are farmers, not consultants appointed to represent farmer interests, not PR appointments, but actual growers with actual voting power over how the company is run. 75% of Café Direct's coffee is directly traded, with no middlemen taking cuts between the farm and the roaster. They publish transparent sourcing with named farms. You can see where your coffee came from, which cooperative grew it, and how the payment structure works at farm level. Compare that to the mainly from Brazil and Africa non-answer on a Lavazza bag, or the unverifiable responsibly sourced language on a Kenco jar. This is what supply chain transparency actually looks like when a brand takes it seriously. The Guardian praised Café Direct for both flavor and ethics, a combination that the coffee industry has spent decades insisting is impossible at accessible price points. The argument has always been that genuinely ethical sourcing requires premium pricing that most consumers can't sustain. Café Direct costs around £4 for 227 grams, mid-range, widely affordable. They've been disproving that argument for 30 years. It's stocked in Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose and Asda. It's not a niche product you need to seek out online or order from a specialist. It's sitting on the same shelf as the brands that have been quietly cutting corners for decades. If you drink ground coffee, this is where your money belongs. Check the label, question the marketing, know what you're drinking. What should we investigate next? Drop it in the comments. We're going through every staple in your kitchen, one brand at a time.